Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Man, every time I look at a leftist hellhole, I think, thank God it's not coming here, and then sure enough, it's coming here. You know, I talked about a couple podcasts ago about how Brandon Herrera and Colion Noir have been going to gun buybacks and trying to get the weapons before they were bought with gift cards. And I live in a very rural, kind of very red or very 2A friendly town. So much so that my sheriff in the area was one of the first to start the paperwork and the process to become a Second Amendment sanctuary city or county. Little did I know, and it's been kind of apparent through the COVID stuff, that my actual chief of police is a leftist nut. And what I mean by that is he is actually backing a gun buyback here in Farmington, New Mexico. Now, understand the demographics of the area. There's a lot of oil-filled people here. This town, or this county specifically in northwest New Mexico, doesn't vote like New Mexico, the larger metropolitan areas of New Mexico. We're more in line with Texas or Arizona at the best. We used to vote a lot more like Colorado before Colorado became a leftist hellhole. And this is a shock. You know, the first announcement I saw of this gun buyback, which was on Facebook yesterday. And I've seen my friends who are all, you know, on my Facebook feed, they're all 2A friendly, throwing this up and saying, what are we doing this for? Well, the fact of the matter is gun buybacks do not stop violence. They never have. Usually what they end up buying is a ton of crap guns. I guess I kind of understand if you're totally terrified of guns, you want to get rid of this thing from inside your house. What actually terrifies me about this, though, is I've heard and I've seen stories of bigger cities like in New York or in California where these gun buybacks are, well, they're more successful than hopefully this one will be, because maybe if they're not successful here, they won't continue this process. But they actually had, I'll just get to the story directly. There was a gun buyback in New York where this lady brought back a capture, or she brought a gun in to be bought for a gun buyback. Now, most gun buybacks, one of the rules are they have to destroy the firearms. Now, why is that important? This old lady brought back her husband's bring back STG-44. Now, if you don't know what that is, it is the first Sturmgewehr, or the first assault rifle, the real deal assault rifle that has ever existed on planet Earth. It's the first one the Germans issued. Okay, so this is a 7.92 by 33. They are rarer than winter roses. Okay, so she brought this thing in because she didn't want it in the house, because she believed that, she believed that it would get into the wrong hands, and she just didn't know what she had. So New York, bound by law, had to destroy this piece of history. And it makes me think of like my uncle's gun collection. You know, I'm pretty sure my cousins sold it off because they had to, because of the will. But in it, he had several original Colt Peacemakers, single action armies. Some of them were worth a lot for collectors. Now, I could imagine someone discovering something like that, not knowing what it is, but just knowing it's a pistol, not being friendly to the 2A, or not having anything they want to do with the 2A, taking this gun and thinking that they're doing a good thing for the community, and man, they're getting another gun off the street. Now this single action army being destroyed because they have to destroy these guns. How many of these fully automatics that we're not allowed to have anyway, that are bringbacks, but have the paperwork or were purchased or brought back and still capable of being, registered during the amnesty, or some of these, I imagine a lot of these law-abiding citizens brought them back, deactivated them, which means you can re-register them as a reactivated gun, and you just have to pay your $200 tax stamp. How many of these great museum pieces, these pieces of history, are we going to lose to something so stupid and naive because of something that doesn't actually affect the gun problem? Same token, if you haven't went and left your comment on the ATF's new proposed rule about owning firearms and selling firearms and how they're going to redefine FFL, guys, you need to go do that. Okay, first off, there's a couple of reasons why you need to do that. One, if there's enough comments, it usually makes the ATF back off because they know that there's no appetite for this. We need that to happen here. There's tonight and tomorrow, I believe, before it's done. Actually, I think it's the 7th, so the rest of this week. But it's rapidly approaching that we need to get this taken care of. 2, we know that none of these proposed laws actually have any bearing on crime. California has a 45% increase in crime right now. And what really bothers me, there's a couple things that bother me about this. Number one is to see the elected officials like Martin Heinrich come out, and he is actually the co-sponsor of that bill I talked about on Monday's podcast, which was the gas-operated firearms ban that they're trying to push in the Senate. Now, what bothers me about this is that Martin Heinrich comes out and talks about how he's a supporter of the 2A and how he's such a great advocate for the 2A because he believes in sporting arms and all that. Well, you know what? You're not a fan of the 2A if you ever say, I'm a fan of the 2A or I'm for the 2A, but. Anytime you add a but, you are not a member of our community. Let's just be honest. That means you're okay with registration, civilian disarmament, and restrictions when we already know for a fact what the hell is going on with this. And it makes me think about that because today I had to go through an orientation for my new position. And one of the safety guys came in, and he was talking about gun active shooter statistics and how they had been up something to the tune of 40 or 50% more. And he quickly glanced over this stuff, and there's one or two of us, which I found out later that these two other guys in this orientation are actually pro 2A guys. One of them's from Tennessee, one of them's from Connecticut. Anyway, what's interesting is they were talking, this safety guy was saying that the shootings were up. And I was thinking about the statistics that he's quoting, number one, they're older, so they're 2011 and 2013. But number two, the reason why statistics for these shootings are going up is because they've roped in the statistics of 18 to 20-year-olds in gang violence, because those are now considered mass casualty events or active shooter events. Now, that's just raw gang crime, okay? So to include those in those statistics, one, it inflates the statistics and it makes them, seem like we're experiencing more of these. And to some degree, I think we are. But I think that's a lot more because the media is publicizing these ever increasingly. I also think we have more of a mental health issue in this country that's becoming more and more of an issue that more and more people aren't willing to address. But it's becoming more and more clear. And I say that because you're seeing other issues associated with mental health issues. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room. When guys want to become girls or girls want to become guys, and it seems to be a social contagion, we need to look at what's causing that. And let's just be blunt with this right here. That has to be because of what has changed in the culture. Okay? We have fostered this idea that people aren't okay as who they are. Okay? As they were designed and meant to be. As God created them to be. And that in itself causes a sickness that just keeps building, you know. And to see so many examples in my town or in my state, while I know I'm behind the blue wall, it's sobering to see it come so rapidly, so quickly in this area. I still believe we're winning, at least on the federal level. But the states have some leeway into saying what they can and can't do to some degree. You know, we're winning in that we're seeing consistent wins in the federal courts. It just takes a long time. And it's terrible to see it. You know, on the political front, you're seeing the rumblings of Biden being withdrawn from the election. And what I mean by that is they are slowly publicizing articles about the slow burn, so to speak, that the Republicans are putting out, showing the actual documentation that shows Biden is actually corrupt. We all knew that. But that's only one part of this. You're seeing people inside of their own party, in the Democratic Party, realizing that they can't win with Biden. We've had 3 years of Biden now. We know that he's pretty much incompetent to run the country. We've all experienced inflation in dramatic ways. We all have seen prices for gasoline and for energy just keep going up and up and up. And it's because of the policies that are pushed down at the federal level. If the Democrats know they can't win, they're going to try to replace him. Now, that sounds like that should be a slam dunk for Trump, right? Because Trump is he's leading in double digits in a lot of polls. But you have to remember there's a lot of turncoats in the right. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of turncoats that are law and order guys. And if Trump is convicted by law and order, by the legal system, they won't vote for him. They'll say they will, but they won't vote for him. And that has to be something to consider going into this election season. We're now in that final golden hour where you're going to start January 1, you're going to start seeing a ton of election ads. We need to start thinking about how we're going to go full court press on the candidates that actually matter to the 2A. You know, the presidential election does matter to some degree, but these local elections really matter. You know, the sheriff is one of the key pieces in your county that can be the firewall for your rights. Shane Ferrari won in San Juan County again, and actually I see that as a good thing because he's the one that's always going out time and time again and standing up for our rights. Now he has to play politics because, well, let's just be honest. The reason why these elected officials have to play politics is because in New Mexico specifically, they use money to keep these guys in check. If you can't run your department because you can't fund it, because you're too much of a jerk and you're not willing to play politics, they absolutely will defund them. So that's where we come into play. We have to put enough pressure on the state, the governor, and the state roundhouse in New Mexico to make sure that this isn't allowed. That also means signing those petitions for people that are coming out that are willing to run for office and throw their hat in the ring and are actually good. You know, Farmington, or San Juan County, I believe, our district attorney is coming up for re-election, not only re-election but to be elected. Jack Fortner, he has his little warts in some places, but he has a lot of good things. You know, the guy is a concealed carry guy. He's also anti-porn. And the libertarian part of me says I don't really care about that. The other part of me says that porn's kind of corrosive. So I understand why some people would sign up behind him. I personally talked to the man. I got to talk to him this last Sunday at church before services and after services. And I probed him about some things, and I'm going to stand behind the man because I think he's actually legitimate. He actually believes what he's saying. He seems very genuine. And that's hard to find nowadays in politicians. That's why I hate branding people like Shane a politician. I hate branding, my friend, my good friend, who's the mayor of Farmington, Nate Duckett, as a politician. They have to play politics to try to get things done, so I understand this. They have to cross the aisle some places. But in some places, they need to put their foot down. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That's where we come in as the American citizen or the citizen of your area, where you actually brass check them and make them stand up for what you believe in and what they said they would do. That's why local means more than anything at the federal level. That said, we need to be paying attention to those people at the federal level, because if we give up the House in any way, shape, or form and let them have the majority back, they're going to pass gun laws. Martin Heinrich's in the Senate. I believe that New Mexico doesn't have another senator that is eligible for re-election, so we're not going to get to elect another senator. But we may be able to elect another representative at the federal level. I'd have to look at the statistics, so it's time to start looking at those things. January's coming up, which means that we're going to have another session in the Roundhouse where they're going to start trying to push these things, and they're going to try to do what they always do in New Mexico, because our governor is a fan of California. That is a bad thing. If you are a Democrat, which I really don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican personally, I actually care more so that you actually look at the issues. If you want to register whatever to vote in the primaries, that's great. I'm registered as a Republican, but I'm going to tell you I'm a libertarian. I'm an ANCAP. I'm not even sure that voting matters much in a lot of cases, especially at the federal level. But I know it does at the local level. Those school board elections, those matter. Those mayors, those sheriffs, those county officials, all those elections matter. Your local people that you're putting in the Roundhouse, the House and the House of Representatives and the Senate in New Mexico, that's called they're combined into one thing called the Roundhouse because it is a round building. Those matter because if we can overwhelm them, New Mexico is 70 or 90 some odd years of Democrat control. Democrat control. We're last in education, one of the first, if not the first, in crime, and we continually climb. Why is that? You can't continually do the same thing and expect a different result. That's the definition of insanity. But New Mexicans, especially in Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and Santa Fe, seem to think that's how you do business. It's time to make a difference. It's time that we keep pushing out. That's what this whole thing was about with me and New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. The cool parts I'm seeing in the 2A, especially in the political sphere, is that we are winning. It's just taking time. And it's also just painful. It's painful to watch an administration that has demonized one entire side of the aisle to brand them as terrorists. It's came out in the Daily Caller where the Army is now looking at the people in it as possible insurgents that want to overthrow our country, seditious members of our country. Now, that may be the case, but that's also a label that you can put on anybody, and that's dangerous when you label someone like that because there's law that can allow them to do stuff once you label them as being a seditious person. That's the one thing that our founding fathers did give them the teeth with, is sedition, to act against the country. I would argue that a lot of the politicians are already seditious. They've already started acting against the will of the people. Some of them are bought and sold. This is where we have to fight back. I would consider running for office in that maybe I could do something different. The problem is I really don't want to, at 46 years old, jump into that range, that ring, so to speak, because I don't want them digging through and finding out some of the stuff I've done in my life. It's none of their damn business, but they would find out. It's not that I believe I have anything to hide either, but we all do stuff when we're younger that you probably don't really care about now. It's probably something you just put behind you. That's why I see a lot of people not wanting to do this, because even if anything came out anywhere at any time for any person, and they're a 100% good person, they're going to sling mud and make it an issue. I don't want to drag my family through that. And I imagine you guys are in the same boat. So what do? Those strong-willed people that are willing to go out and do the right thing, let's back them. Let's knock on some doors. Let's kick them $5 when we can. And let's hope this makes a difference. Because the alternative really, really sucks. I honestly think that what we're also seeing is, and I've said it before, peaceful protest. People aren't listening anymore. This country's going to break down in a way, if it breaks down, it's going to be in a way that I don't think a lot of people are really cognizant of. Imagine a state or the country itself where people just don't listen to the law anymore. There's a lot of people that follow rules because they're afraid of jail. But as they keep letting people free for everything, it devalues what law enforcement, their ability to do anything, is. And to some degree, I'm okay with that. But on the other hand, what happens in that horrible time when the cops come in to step in to stop an issue, and both sides that are having the issue say, well, who are you? You have no right to be here. You have no power over us. And continue on. In that scenario, if it's large enough, there's nothing they can do. And that invalidates it, and that's what starts the ball rolling in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Because that's when anarchy, while I am a fan of a lot of anarchic ideals, rules have to be maintained to keep society together to some degree. We have to know that, you can go to bed at night and you have the right to defend yourself, but that you're also not having rampant crime where everything you had was stolen in the night outside of your home or inside your home. We need to have people feel safe enough to do what they need to do to conduct their life. That's the focus should be on law. That's what the law's focus should be. Not on these stupid gun buybacks that aren't going to affect anything. Not on these laws that aren't going to affect gun crime. Criminals don't obey laws. Only those people that are really fans of the law and order of our country obey laws. Like, share, subscribe, be great.